Hi guys. I'm gonna try and do this video relatively quickly. I read these a while ago. I bought these during quarantine when the library was closed. Normally I don't buy books unless I know 100% that I want them, that I want to keep them and reread them over time. Because I just don't have enough space to keep buying hundreds of books. This is kind of like a leap of faith. I made a reasonable assumption that I was gonna like them because it's like murder nonfiction. It's the Profiles in Crime series. Each book has a different author. There's 5 total books. So I have Killer Cults and Extreme Killers. And then there's 3 other ones in the series. How to Catch a Killer, Serial Killers of the 70s, and Serial Killers of the 80s. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. It's nonfiction, murder, mystery stuff. I read Killer Cults first, so let's just start with that guy. This is by Steven Singular. For some reason I wanted to say Sinclair. So most of these are technically cults, but most of these are like, they're the very well known ones. A problem that I encountered was that most of this was already information that I knew. In that sense, this book didn't give me any extra. There's quite a few that I hadn't heard of because they're not American. Does that make sense? Like, these are things that happen outside of America, and my focus as an American has always been doing research and stuff about American cults. I mean, some of the cults like start in America and then they have to move to other countries because America gets tired of them. Some of these are still very much active, and it's kind of scary to like think that we're still in the process of trying to prosecute some of these things. So if you're the kind of person that bothers, just be aware. I really like this guy, Steven Singular, because he goes out of his way to be more of like a reporter in that there's less embellishment. He paints a picture in your mind, yes, but he's not trying to either downplay or upplay anything at all. It's really hard to explain. It's just like kind of cut and dry and like, this is what happened. Because these things already are so terrible, we don't need to like use colorful language to make them worse. And I just, as a person, there are some things that I'm like, how did we get here? Y'all were very much aware of what was happening while it was happening. I mean, all of this is brainwashing. But if your leader ever makes you go without food, like if you're dealing with any sort of deprivation, like sleep deprivation, you're not allowed to eat or drink water or anything like that, you gotta get out of there. Why do we as human beings allow ourselves into these kinds of situations? And then there's quite a few, one of the more active ones that's currently going on in America. They have people who routinely go and say, hey, I can get you out. Like, you have an avenue to leave, but they're still fearful that if they leave, they're going to get killed. You're dying in here anyway. Might as well just take the chance to get out. It's so hard, and like to see, I can't imagine being a family member of somebody in there and you just want to help them get out and they won't accept your help. It breaks my heart that like these people have to go through stuff like this and that it's self-inflicted. But keep in mind that like all of this, like every single thing that happened in this book then occurred like within my mother's lifetime. And that's astounding to me that there's like 20. Oh my goodness gracious. Anyway, his whole point is that you can't blame the members because they get slowly introduced to these things, and it's like this slow progression of more and more terrible things every year, you know. And even the vast majority of the people who start these groups are not intending to necessarily hurt people, and it just kind of turns into this nasty thing. And there's just so much behind it as far as psychology goes that like we can't even begin to like break the surface of what's wrong with the people who are members or the people who are leaders. It's very good. It's very well written. He does a wonderful job. Way to go, Stephen Singular. So I guess Stephen Singular writes crime books with his wife. So that's cool. I guess she does more of like the organizational stuff and he like writes it. But that's cool. Okay. So anyway, that's this book, Killer Cults, Profiles in Crime. Okay, so we have Extreme Killers here. And this one is by Michael Newton. It's the world serial killers. It's not like fixated in America, where I feel like that's the vast amount of information we have. So there was quite a few people in here that I hadn't heard of because they were like Brazilian or French or whatever the case may be. This book is specifically chronological, so he goes kind of oldest to newest. Basically, for the purposes of this book, it is gruesome and brutalness of the murders, and then also count. So all but 2 of the killers in this book have had body counts of 100 or more, and some of them are just estimates. So he's like saying these are his like top worst, but they aren't necessarily everybody's worst, right? Like I said, it starts chronologically. So we start with like Bluebeard in the 1700s. Like, I mean, we go way back. It's really hard to pinpoint in some of these cases what is actually their victim and what isn't, because you kind of don't know where to start. And there are some people that don't tell you. One of the men in here hooked up with somebody who was already a serial killer, and then he just like took it and ran. So you don't know, was it him who killed that woman, or how do you know that it was him and not the other guy? Like, at what point do the scales like flop, right? And then one of the other problems too is that you've got some overlapping time frames and chronology. This one was more intriguing to me, and he does say in his introduction that like he also does not try to embellish anything because these crimes are already so gruesome and awful. And then another thing that he does is he gives out lists, but he literally goes like state by state how many girls in each state, and then like names them. He makes it a point to make sure that everybody's name, they're recognized. This person in specific was just like, it's just Jane Doe, Jane Doe, Jane Doe, Jane Doe. Or this guy will remember a name, like this one is like Sarah or Donna or something similar. Like, he doesn't even remember their names, and so you just kind of have to be like, this person also exists, but we don't know who she is. And then another thing that he brings up with a couple suspects is that you also don't know if they've killed less people than they say, or more. I mean, so more, because you have to worry about they could forget things. Like, we're talking about hundreds of people sometimes. Like, you keeping track, unless you're writing it down, can be it's nigh impossible. Like, I know specifically that there's one person who came and, you know, confessed to, I think he confessed to like 5 or something, local murders, and the police kept coming in to him like, hey, do you know anything about this case? It's similar, and we're just wondering if you did it too. And he would be like, yeah, that was me, that was this guy over here. But we're not really sure. I want to talk about each and every single actual thing, but I'm not a murder mystery channel. That's not why we're here. We don't have time for this. Anyway, there's just so much going on. This book is I'm surprised by how detailed it is. Like, there's some things, especially like the older stuff, we just don't have enough information. She's just gonna be real cuddly today, huh? Clearly I have more pressing matters to attend to, so I will see you guys. Oh my goodness. Anyway, this is where we're gonna end. Good books. Read the rest of the series. I'm going to probably not purchase them. Oh my God, cat fur everywhere. But check it out. Like I said, I got out of Barnes & Noble. I always like to actually buy things from brick and mortar buildings. Part of it is the browsing. I like to browse books a lot. I could be in a bookstore for hours. It has happened before. I've gone into a bookstore and like 11 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the morning, and come out and have it be like dark outside, like real dark. It's a problem. Anyway, Profiles in Crime. The spine here, they look real nice on the shelf, and all of the books have different colors too. So I'm gonna end that here. I'm being summoned. Let me know what you're reading. Like, let's talk about it. I feel like I'm kind of in this slump right now. I was reading with, I've just been kind of reading nonfiction. I'm just in a nonfiction-y kind of mood. Comment down below if you've read these. Like, let me know how you felt about them too. And this series. If you've read the other ones in the series, let me know. Is it worth it? Should I even be trying to read them? Alright, and I will see you guys again in a week with another video.